Of agility. Okay.
Hi, Ben. Long time no see.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You ready to roll?
I am ready to go.
Okay. Dr. Edmondson, this interview will last an hour, and there will be 18 questions for you to answer, so kind of think about that as we move through the process. I will be asking the questions, as you know, from our conversation. So we're going to start with, the board's reviewed your resume, your supporting materials, and application documents. Could you please share something with the board about yourself that's not in the application documents that you presented to them? And concluding, will you share why you're interested in the superintendent position here in Wayne Westland?
Surely. Glasses are proof that I'm a certain age. I have to use them to be able to see on certain things. My resume is, it doesn't mention any teaching. I don't think that's on there at all. I think everything is administrative. And you will see that I started my career here in administration at John Glenn High School, where it was a fine time to be a John Glenn student. And then I was there for 6 months, and I applied for David Hicks Elementary School and went over to David Hicks Elementary School, where it was happening at Hicks, January of 2001 to 2003. What is missing is my teaching experience. I've been a teacher. I come from New Jersey. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and my teaching experience extended from Baltimore City Public Schools, elementary. Then I went back home, which is rather unique as well. I went back home to New Jersey, and I taught 7th and 8th grade mathematics and English at that time. And I concluded my teaching career by going back to an elementary school in New Jersey in the 5th grade. And I stayed till my tenure. And then I came out here rather sight unseen for a doctoral program at Eastern Michigan, where I had a doctoral fellowship and I worked for 2 professors. So that is, that's something that's not on my resume, that teaching experience. The interest in the position is, frankly, it's all about coming home. I have a love and a respect for the community here. When I go by Hicks Elementary School and I see the sign that says it's a Golden Apple School, I remember that. That happened in 2003. We were awarded that when I left. So there's just an affinity that I have with the community. There's a respect level that I have for the community. There's an understanding that I have for the community. When I started out as at John Glenn, my experience was it was a phenomenal experience, but I was also young. I think the difference now for me is that I've matured. We're talking about 13 years ago. There's still work to do, but on a grander scale. I'm proud of the fact that we got a Golden Apple Award at David Hicks, because at the time it was a failing school and I had a phenomenal staff. And you can't do it by yourself. You have to do it with your staff. I have a relationship with your current superintendent, Dr. Harmala. We know each other from being superintendents, and we also participate in Middle Cities together. So when I knew about this opportunity, I knew about it in June, and then I told her that I was absolutely going to apply because this is home for me. Even though I'm from New Jersey, my administrative career is here. So the people that need an explanation, I tell them it's sort of like LeBron James going back to Cleveland. It's coming home, and how important that was to him and how important it was to the city. I'm not certain that it's important to this city, but it's important to me. A few other things, the challenges, they're very similar to challenges in which I faced, that I currently face in Ypsilanti Community Schools. There's perception, there's teacher attrition. Those are big. there's student achievement, there's funding, there's closures of schools, there's enrollment. I've dealt with those issues as a leader, and I've worked with my community in trying to solve those issues. So that's very important to me as well. And the last thing that I will add is the familiarity with the schools. There are a number of leaders that I know here. Some of them have grown with me. We've grown up together for the most part, that are in administration. One of my neighbors is here and is in administration here. Bright Futures program, Middle Cities, Champions program, Urban Pathways, secretaries, teachers. There's just a familiarity. And again, for me, this is all about coming home and coming to a place where I know I can do the work and where I was respected.
Thank you. Could you give the board some examples of how you plan to maintain visibility and accessibility for staff, parents, and community groups?
Yes, visibility for me. I have a golf cart in Ypsilanti Community Schools called the Soup Scoop, and everybody knows what it is. And I take visitors on the Soup Scoop when we drive to different schools that are around the area. But just my visibility it's weekly. I go into classrooms and I read to kids. I tell all I have my administrative assistant set up an appointment where I go into schools and I read to students from one school every week. I do something called the Superintendent's Challenge with kids when I go into schools. The Superintendent's Challenge is a t-shirt that says, "I passed the Superintendent's Challenge." And I go in and I ask kids questions, things that they should know. Okay, and for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they all know what it is. It's a multiplication test, 6 times 7. So I ask kids, what's 6 times 7? And I go through 10 of them, and when they get it, I give them a t-shirt, and they go home with that t-shirt. And I tell teachers, I tell parents, I tell students that you can't buy that t-shirt anywhere. You wear it in a community with pride because you know that you got it from the superintendent, and the superintendent asked you some of those questions. I have a very big role with our businesses. We have over 50 businesses that are partners with us now at this point. And it's simply going out and explaining to the community your importance and being visible and being accessible. I give people complete access to me. And that's one of the things I think that has helped us become very successful in the last 2 years in our educational pursuits, is making certain that I am accessible to folks. Visibility to me also means my ability to communicate. Each month I give out something, it goes out to 4,000 people, 4,000 emails, and it's called, oddly enough, but it's called Manifesto, my manifesto. And what I send out is, and that's what I provided for you, 3 examples of the manifestos that I send out to the community. It is important for the community to understand the relationship between them and the schools. When I go out into the community, I promote my own professional vision for our school district, which is simply Ypsilanti Community Schools will be the first high-performing urban district in the United States based on student achievement, teacher expectations, parental involvement, and business engagement. Those are the 4 things that, as the superintendent, that is my challenge. I think about it every morning. I recite it every morning to tell myself that teacher expectations are important, not just their ability to raise the level of expectation, but also what they can expect from their superintendent, which is high expectations, which is visibility, which is I am very direct. Sometimes I work on how to smooth it out, but people prefer that you be direct and honest with them so that they can grow as well and so that they understand that there's no hidden agenda. So all of this comes with visibility. Again, in the community, I just had, this morning, I had breakfast with the Ministerial Alliance and Representative Ronnie Peterson and County Commissioner Ricky Jefferson. We have those meetings once a month. Okay? It is my responsibility to be the face of the district, and in my community, I welcome being the face of the community as I would here. And I also have relationships with the police chiefs. It's just ongoing because I'm an extreme extrovert, so that's just fun for me. Just fun to get out there and just be who I am and not somebody I'm not.
Thanks. What do you think the important issues are in creating a good school board superintendent relationship? And how do you facilitate that relationship, and how will you communicate with this board?
Well, I think that the most important issue that you start with is understanding your role.
Understanding my role and understanding your role. I think when we have a little bit of collusion there, that becomes a problem. stepping outside of your role. I understand that, but my role as the superintendent is to manage the district, the daily operations, and making certain that the school board understands the 3 functions that they have and some of the additional ones, but to hire and fire the superintendent, but I also say to retain. Okay, not just to hire and fire your superintendent, the board's responsibility is to help retain that person as well, assuming that he is in this case, good. Setting policy, and setting the school policy, and advocating at the state, local, and federal level. We could also put in to approve a budget, that's important as well. But just having an understanding, I think being open and honest and making sure that all information is shared equally. The superintendent shares all information, so I give out, with my Board of Education, I give out a board brief every week of what I've done for that week. But I also include my instructional cabinet, because you have to operate on no surprises. You're in the community, you're listening, people want to know about what's going on in the school district. I have to feed you and rather inundate you with the information. I think it's important to understand from your superintendent achievement. What are your achievement results? So essentially, I would say that there's a reciprocal relationship between the 2 entities, one of mutual understanding and respect, one understanding the roles, being open and honest, extremely important, being open and honest. Understanding for me that communication is critical, and that there's going to be plenty of opportunities where we don't agree, but we have to figure that out. When we don't agree, I understand what my position is. I work for you, you don't work for me. And my job is to execute the things that you ask me to execute. But I certainly would like to be respected for my ideas and some of the vision and some of the unique qualities that I bring to the school board. But if I have to tone them down or tame them down, then we should have those conversations. But you have to both spend time in any relationship, just like a marriage or anything else. You have to work on it, okay? Sort of like my father tells me, love is an action word, okay? It's not anything else but an action word. So you have to show a relationship is, you have to work on a relationship. It just doesn't happen. So my responsibility would be to build that. So monthly, I would say that I have, there would be meetings with us once a month, each one of the board members and myself. We would have lunch. It's critical to have a great relationship with the board president. Critical. And I've learned that. I don't necessarily know if I would have known that before taking this job. But I am very aware that the relationship with the board president is critical. I want to make sure I did everything there.
Could you describe your experiences with strategic planning from initiation to completion of outcomes?
Yes, strategic plan. I'm the first to say I'm not an expert, and that's one of the things I think is important as a superintendent, that you know your strengths and weaknesses and also have the unique ability of understanding where you need to bring somebody else in, okay, when it's important to do that. And I'm not saying that as though it's in terms of collaboration. I understand collaboration, but a strategic plan is not necessarily something that I've done or that I do regularly. But what we did was in Ypsilanti Community Schools, there was no strategic plan. So I worked with the ISD. Actually, we talked to 3 different entities about helping us or organizations helping us to come up with a strategic plan. I think where our school district went wrong is that we got a consultant, and the strategic plan became the superintendent's plan and the Board of Education's plan. Where we missed out is that it wasn't the community's plan as well. And when you leave out that important piece, people don't know what your plans are. They cannot recite it. And what I say, if the community doesn't know what your strategic plan is, it's kind of chaos, okay? When you're making decisions, they have no idea why you're making those decisions, because the plan has not been implemented correctly, okay, because an important piece was left out. So in our case, we've had strategic plan. We have a strategic plan. It's not as, I looked at the one here. It's a little bit more comprehensive. I think it was about 45 pages. Ours is 2. It's 2. And it's pretty direct in what we're going to do. I know exactly what we're going to do. It gives me the freedom to address the issues. So one of them was facilities. Okay, facilities. We knew that we had 21 facilities, too many for a district that consolidated and only has 3,900 kids. So the board allowed me the opportunity to do some things with those buildings that would put us in a better financial position. But the strategic plan was rather vague. So my experience, what I didn't say is I was in Ann Arbor Public Schools for 10 years, and we had a strategic plan too, and it's very, very comprehensive, and it took probably 6 months, which I think is a long time for a strategic plan. But you have to have, I forgot, we didn't have anybody from administration, we didn't have teachers. So when you have a strategic plan, you need to include the cliche, the word stakeholders, but you have to have your stakeholders at the table. But also, I think that when we have a strategic plan, there are times when people are not at the table, that should be at the table. And then sometimes it's stated that this is what the community wanted, when the people at the strategic plan did not represent the people in the community. So as a superintendent and a school board, if we were to revisit, I already saw who's on the strategic plan, but if we were to revisit, you have to make sure that the people on your strategic plan or working on it resemble the people that are coming into your school district as well.
Thanks. How would we recognize a collaborative leader? What behaviors would we see in a collaborative leader, in your mind? How would you describe a collaborative leader in terms of what they're doing?
Well, a collaborative leader, one, has to be a person that listens. Okay, you can't collaborate if you're doing all the talking. Okay, a collaborator has to listen. A collaborator is someone who empowers. I'll just give you an example of how I'm collaborating at this very moment. We have instructional coaches. Okay, there are 8 of them. I meet with them now. This is in the last month. I meet with them every week. Okay, and I'm one of 9, and that's what I told them. Yes, I have the role of the superintendency, but I'm one of 9 at this table. And I said, you cannot rely on me to make all the decisions. That's not good leadership. If I'm making every decision that's out, then that's more of a dictatorship. Okay, collaboration is allow people to give input, give support, present ideas, present their creativity. Collaboration is taking risk and allowing people to take risk. Collaboration allows for failure, but the success far outweighs the potential failures. A collaborator in this case, as a superintendent, is getting out in the community, okay, asking the tough questions and asking questions, not just tough questions, but asking questions, bringing students and getting students' opinion on matters. Collaboration to me is really talking to people, having a conversation with people, empowering them to help you, okay? To help and have a collective vision and say, this is what we need to do. It cannot be my idea. It doesn't work when it's just someone else's idea, because collaboration to me, when it's completed, if there's ever such thing as completion of a collaborative plan or collaboration, most everybody feels good about it. There's no winners and losers when you collaborate. It's all winners.
You mentioned a group that you've been working with. Could you describe how you have collaborated with various stakeholders important to school district success? Some example.
Sure. Let me think of. One of them is, and it's the Urban Pathways. You have the Urban Pathways program here, and so do we in Ypsilanti. Dr. Michael Sayer is the Dean of the School of Education at EMU. He and I collaborated before anyone else knew about Urban Pathways. He and I had a conversation about the Urban Pathways. And I brought my instructional team at that table. So Dr. Saylor came to my office, and he was presenting his vision. And we met probably about 3 or 4 times. And I gave him some suggestions on the Urban Pathways. Just flat out, I was just flat out and said, our kids need a full scholarship. We can't afford anything if it's not a full scholarship. I had conversations about being a district that is all free and reduced lunch, that a full-time scholarship is what we need. Our kids will not be able to afford anything else because that's the population that we serve. I said to him that, you know, if you're going to have the Urban Pathways, we need to be able to help you too. It's not just us taking from EMU. We have to be able to give. So one of the conversations I had with him is not as a give back, but essentially we'd love to have some student teachers, or we'd like you to be able to try some other things out in terms of education, that Ypsilanti Community Schools would be a full partner with the School of Education. If you're going to have the urban pathways, then I certainly want to give back and be a part of what's happening at EMU, so that our kids can benefit and so that their student teachers can benefit from what Ypsilanti has. But that was probably about a 3-month process with Dr. Saylor. He came by himself, but I made sure that I brought our team so that we could have a full discussion and make sure that we can collaborate, because my responsibility is to represent my community, okay? And that's why I'm not at that table by myself.
Okay.
I have some other ideas, but
That's okay, that's good, you gave us examples. Budgets can be seen as moral documents. Describe what process you plan to use to make sure that the budget here in Wayne Westland represents the values of the district and the strategic plan.
what a question. The first thing is when I walk into my office, when I walk into my building, the first office I go into, beside my own, I speak to my administrative assistant, but then I go into our business director's office, Kathy Secor, and I just sit down there and I just talk, and I ask her, is there anything that I need to know? How are we doing in finances? It's almost ongoing. It's kind of fun, as a matter of fact, because of her personality and mine were rather opposite. Complementary, I'll use that, that's better. We're complementary. And the strategic plan for me drives everything. Okay, that's what the purpose of your strategic plan is, that you have a plan that's going to stand the test of time, that's going to be 5 to 10 years. And your strategic plan helps you make all of your budgetary decisions, because it's clear what the community values. I don't have to necessarily have a conversation with my director of business finance or business services, except for, are we following this plan? In this case, I've gotten a look at the strategic plan here, but I also know that budgets are tight. And my role is to look at the budget and see where we can make some allowances, as long as if it's not listed on the strategic plan, I tend to look at it like, okay, we have some leeway to make some changes here. But when you have budgetary restraints or constraints, or in this case, we had the situation where we were spending too much money on buildings that were unoccupied. So I did a full study and I did a full presentation to our Board of Education, and I had a Facilities Advisory Board where I brought 25 businesses in with me to look at our finances. And that's what I asked them. Look at our finances, look at our buildings. Tell me what we can do. Tell me with your business mind. So I don't necessarily have a business mind. That's what I told them, but I really do have a business mind. I'm all about business. But I had that conversation with them about how they could help, how they could be an expert in an area that I was not an expert. So I thought it was important for me in that particular situation also to be humble, because you don't know all the information. And with your budget person, finance is not my expertise. Education is. But that strategic plan guides all of your decisions. And you have to make sure that your community is aware of the decisions that you make, because when you make them, it comes back up to bite you if they don't know what the strategic plan is.
Ben, what do you think the most important leadership skill is?
Wow, most. Wow, that narrows it down to one.
Right. Like one, not
Yes,
10.
most is one.
Right.
Wow. Truth.
Okay, talk a little bit about it.
What's that?
Talk a little bit about truth and why you picked that.
I think everything is built on truth. If you can't be trusted, then nobody cares about your leadership, because you're not trusted. They can't get past the message. It's all about the message. If they can't trust the messenger, then the message is lost. So I guess I would start there. If you cannot believe what comes out of my mouth as a building leader, then it doesn't matter what comes out of my mouth, because you don't think it's true anyway. And then if there's no truth, if you don't have truth in your leader, then there's no support, there's no follow-up, and there's no follow-through, because you're not trusted. And then you have a short tenure.
Okay, thanks. How have you improved student achievement in in your district now in IPSI or in previous districts? And after you've shared that part, what are the challenges you see facing Wayne Westland Community Schools? And how would you address them here?
I'm not going to say that I changed student achievement. I think that's rather grandiose. I wouldn't say that. I would say that we as a district have impacted our student achievement. I would describe me as a instructional leader. When you look into your packet, you'll see my NWEA results, our school district NWEA results. I can speak on them. Okay, I understand what I'm looking for, growth. I can walk into a classroom, I can see what sound instruction looks like. Okay, I understand what guided reading looks like because that's where I started. I started my career here in terms of being a principal, and that's where I learned about guided reading. That's been my foundation. So I'm able to walk into a classroom and be able to see sound instruction, okay, and see what that looks like and offer support. Data drives me, okay? Data drives me. Data don't lie, okay? No matter what it is, it's not gonna lie, okay? So I use that to tell the data is, so for us it's NWEA. We have DRA. Now we're going to go into the Scholastic Reading Inventory, but it's no longer Scholastic, so it's Reading Inventory, okay, and Math Inventory. I want to be able to assess, but not over-assess. I like to assess and see where our kids are. You have to know where your kids are, and you have to know where they're going, okay? Student achievement, to me, I just sat down with the pastors today, and I said, what is the value of an Ypsilanti Community Schools diploma? If the value of a diploma means that you are put into remedial classes, that tells me a lot as a superintendent, the type of work that we have to do, okay? If you can't get a job and you're not employable, and you've been in our district for 12 years, that tells me that we have a lot of work to do. So there are the visible signs of, we can look at the end of a senior year, you can see where your kids are going to schools. We can look at GPAs. I feel that every student should know their GPA. When I walk into a high school, the culture has to change, and the culture has to be about, what's your GPA? It does matter, okay? So for me, student achievement has been working with a great group of principals who are eager to learn, eager to support. We've been able to take one of our schools off the priority list. I'm very proud that I recruited somebody. I recruited this building leader to come, and I believed in him, and I knew that he could do it. And what did he do? He turned the school around. He took us off the failing list. And then what did I do after this year? I had to put him in another school that was struggling. So I'm able to identify good leaders. I'm able to, and that's a skill, I think, but able to identify good leaders. I'm able to use the achievement results to determine our direction and how successful we are. Student achievement is closely aligned to culture and climate of a building. Okay, I can walk into a building and you can tell if it's got great energy or not. Okay, I can look at test scores, and then as a building leader, I will make the decision. As a district leader, I will make the decision. If I feel that we have to make a move, okay, I'm going to make a move, and I made a move this year. I don't necessarily know if it was the most popular one, but it was the right decision to make. Okay, because I'm in the business with kids. What are the challenges facing?
Wayne Westland.
Yes. I read the strategic plan, but I didn't have to read the strategic plan because this is home for me. Okay, this is home. And I'm in Ypsilanti Community Schools, so when kids come from Wayne Westland and families talk to me about Wayne Westland, I'm able to have honest, direct conversation. Frankly, I think one of the challenges is the demographic shift. There's a big demographic shift since I've been here, and being able to talk to a community about that. Okay, and being open and honest about what happens when you have a demographic shift. Okay, I think that's a challenge. I feel that we are in a time where schools have to compete. It's not 2000 anymore. It's not 2003. You must compete with Plymouth Canton. You must compete with the charter schools. Okay, you have to compete. One of the things that I could say about Ypsilanti, what I thought our problems were before, we had a perception problem, okay? I think Wayne Westland has a perception problem too, because all the people are running to Plymouth Canton, like Plymouth Canton is giving away free cars. People are running over there. Why? Because sometimes I think we need to look at our schools and make sure that we can offer different opportunities. And I'll give you an example. International Baccalaureate. If I'm a parent in Wayne Westland and I want my child to be in International Baccalaureate school, where do I go? And that would be a question. I mean, that's rather rhetorical, but I'm just saying that's an example. Dual enrollment. Okay, there should be opportunities for students to have be dual enrolled with the county schools, with the community college, and be able to get credits for it. We're able to offer Eastern Michigan as an opportunity for kids, that they can go to Eastern Michigan. The school district pays for them to get credits for Eastern Michigan. STEAM and STEM opportunities. We have a number one, Plymouth can't took us out, but we had a highly regarded robotics program in our school district. So offerings are important, and they're important to parents. Okay, parents don't want the next child, the next door neighbor's kid, to outdo their kid. So if I'm living here and somebody's living next to me and their child's going to a Spanish immersion school, well, I want Spanish immersion. I want Spanish immersion for my child. So I'm probably going to seek the same opportunity they did. And what happens? Your community suffers. So I feel that Wayne Westland has a great opportunity to seize and to discuss with the community what some of the concerns are and where you want to go. Where do we want to go? I like to compete. People tell you that all the time. Okay, I like to compete, but I compete with myself first. Okay, before I ever am going to compete with you, I compete with myself to have a high level of engagement, and I always tell myself that I can, not that I can't. Let me prove to myself that I can and that we can. So if we can re-envision, and I already know there's a strategic plan, but if it doesn't incorporate some of the various opportunities, K-5, a K-5 building, a K-8 building. Okay, my district people are saying we want K-8. We don't have K-8. Okay, K-5, K-8, 2-8, different types of configurations. So I think that's a challenge.
Ben, what role does the superintendent play with the unions in the district?
Collaborator. I guess I would say a collaborator. I think my role as a superintendent has been to empower staff, but I work with the union, and I would love to make sure that I work with the union and make sure that we have the same goals. That's the important. The number one goal is student achievement. And frankly, I like unions, but they don't protect kids. They don't necessarily protect the kids. I'm not saying that they don't necessarily. They protect the adult. And that's part of my struggle, and that's been a struggle for years. Okay? I support unions, absolutely. I believe that it's important for us to sit down and talk and have open dialogue and have open communications. That is critical, absolutely critical. But also, we're in the business of kids, okay? And I think the buck stops there. We're in the business of kids. When there's a union contract, as a superintendent and as a principal, I would say the same thing. I honor your contract, but I also know that if it's not in there, I can do it. The law stands behind me, that if it's not in your contract, I can do it. But I'm not trying to make anybody miserable. I think my job is to make and support having an environment that is engaging, an environment that people like to come to work. It's important that you like to get up every day and come to work. And that's as I said, collaborating. I was also going to say problem solving. I see myself as a problem solver. I want to be one of a few at the table to be problem solving issues. I think the relationship with the union is a problem solving relationship. Naturally, it should be proactive, but there should be efforts to problem solve your most difficult issues. But let's always put kids first, number one, and then we can address all the issues. But kids first, and now let's talk about these things together, and let's problem solve our way out of here, because an unhappy union makes for an unhappy school and an unhappy school district.
This next question is about growth, learning and growth. What's your familiarity with the 5 dimensions of teaching and learning and the 4 dimensions of instructional leadership? And if you're not familiar with those, give an example of strategies you've used.
Okay, my familiarity is limited. Okay, I anticipated that there might be a question here on that, but I talked to a principal here, and when I asked about it, they said that I had to get some kind of login, and then that became the problem. The login piece became the problem. But it's the I'm very aware that it is the teacher evaluation system. I've been using for the last 10 years the Danielson model. No, that's not true. Probably the last 7 years the Danielson model, and it's different than the Danielson model. The principals with whom I've spoken told me that they love this 5 dimensions of teaching, but the teaching part is for the teachers. I know that they have a login and they can see that part. And then the principals have the 4 dimensions of instructional leadership. Now, I've heard some great things about it. I've struggled with the Danielson model because the Danielson model is very rigid to me, extremely rigid, and it is extremely lengthy. It's just a lengthy process. So that's one of the things that I look forward to about when you talk about growth, my own growth, is learning a model for which I'm not familiar.
Okay, you answered it. Describe how you will provide the freedom, or however you do it now in IPSI. How do you provide freedom to allow others to do their job, yet hold them accountable for the outcomes of their work?
I would truly hope that my principals would agree and say that I'm hands off on how you run your building. Okay, but the culture and climate is that's not up for debate. The principals, I tell them all the time, you are responsible for the culture and climate of this school, not me. You are. So if it's good, it rests with you. If it's poor, it rests with you. But when I come in the building, I'm certainly going to let you know what I feel. Okay, and that's important to me, what I feel. I allow my staff, not just principals, I allow staff to take risk. Because in Ypsilanti Community Schools, the status quo is terrible. And I say, I want you to take a risk. You have to you have to take a risk for kids. Because if we don't risk, we already know what we're going to get. And those results aren't good. So I allow them the freedom to hire, okay, and they get to hire, the person that they hire is for the district. Oftentimes, when it comes to teaching, I do not sit in on the interviews because, like Wayne Westland, we have a serious teacher attrition problem and retention. Ours is about health insurance, so that's very difficult. But I can be supportive. I encourage our staff to get, actually I would say to seek out some of their dreams. And I say that it's my goal to help you get where you need to go, that I didn't get this job because I was so brilliant. People supported me along the way and gave me opportunities. One of my principals, 2 of them are in this room right now. And one of them, we've gone to the National Alliance of Black School Educators. I've encouraged others to get involved in Michigan Leadership Institute. I've encouraged others to get involved in Michigan Association of School Boards and go for their interviewing and resume writing. I paid for all of our principals to have free membership, free for them, not free from the district. Membership in their state organizations, MASSP, and other organizations like that. I encourage our staff to get out and find out what's going on outside of our community, find out what's going on in other schools and other school districts, and replicate. Find out what they're doing that's working, and replicate. Come back and bring something back to us. I sit and I have conversations, just honest dialogue. I take principals out to eat, and I ask them what are their goals and how can I support your goals. My love language is gift giving and words of affirmation. Just figured I would share that, and it doesn't stop in the superintendent's chair. It doesn't stop there. Or maybe it doesn't start there. I don't know if that's stated right, but gift giving and words of affirmation. So there are things that I do to make certain that I support principals, support teachers. I didn't mention teachers here, even though, I mean, that question is about freedom to allow them to do their job. I'm assuming that it was principals and central administrators, but the same thing with teachers. And one of the things that I give out as a superintendent's recognition award, I sit down with a group of 8 people. I guess I'll tell it now, but there are 3 people in here that don't know what I'm about to say, but we meet monthly. And I have the 8 people that go into schools regularly, and we sit and we talk about who we're going to recognize. I recognize 5 staff members every month, and they get the Superintendent's Recognition Award. And that is where we recognize them for something positive that they've done. They get a picture frame. Everybody says something different what they're recognized for. They get a Godiva bar, which goes back to David Hicks Elementary School, but they get a Godiva bar for excellence in chocolate, or being a great chocolate bar. And then they get a $25 gift certificate to something in our district. Some restaurant. Another way that I would say that I provide freedom is that on August 28th, we're having our first day back, and we're having, I have a keynote speaker, but I have Ed Talks. I've allowed all of our staff, I said we want at least 4 of you to get up and take 6 to 10 minutes and present to our school district on what you're doing that's fascinating. Energize us. But I said you can't bring a PowerPoint show. So you're gonna have to energize us. But I'm all about, and that's back to my love language, about affirmation, words of affirmation, giving people an opportunity, and we're also doing teacher giveaways, and that's gift giving. That's just who I am, and the superintendent's chair, it's the same way. So those are 2 things that you would see as a way of also allowing freedom.
All right, we're on question number 12. We've got 20 minutes left, so.
Right on.
What's your experience with parents who choose another school district instead of their own? And from your assessment, why do they make these choices, and what can be done about it?
I flat out ask. When they get my manifesto, I just talk about those things, about how many people we're losing. We lose 50% of eligible kids we've lost in our school district. I know exactly where they're going. I work with IDEX to find out where they're going. So I know where they're going. And I just ask, flat out, what is it? Okay, what is it that you're not getting? And then, a lot of themes surface. And when I get those themes, then I can come back and talk to my staff about what are we going to do when you hear these things. If somebody says a school's not safe, then I need to have a conversation. That's back to culture and climate. I have to go back to that principle and say, what's going on? Okay, what's happening that people don't feel safe in the school? Okay, we need to talk about it. You need to collaborate with your staff, students, and parents and find out what is happening. In my community, people know that I'm truthful, and I'm accessible, so that they can talk to me. You talk to me. I don't necessarily do an exit survey because it's really difficult. Parents, most of the time, they're just trying to get out of there. But we have something to combat that as well, called YCS Yes. And our YCS Yes is when the superintendent and I come to people's houses. I come to their homes. That's inside. I come to their homes, and they invite other parents who have questions and maybe concerns, or maybe they're interested in our school district. And I sit there in jeans. I'm in jeans. I don't have a suit and tie on. I'm in jeans. We provide breakfast, or we'll provide the snacks, and they are allowed to ask us any questions. They give us perception data about our school district. 2 weeks ago, we just had it at Go Ice Cream. Go Ice Cream is one of our businesses in our local district that supports what we're doing. We had 12 parents in there wanting to hear more about and most of them were there to hear about our International Baccalaureate. Some of them were coming back, and they're telling us why they're coming back, okay? And I know why they're coming back. I'm very clear on that, but I'm also clear on why they're leaving. So I ask, what can we do? What would it take to get you back? Okay, give us a chance. Someone just moved in and wants to know about Estabrook, one of our schools. So David Jesse, who is the reporter, contacted me. I gave my home phone number to that parent, because that's what I do. Okay, I tell people that superintendent will never define who I am. Never. It's one of my roles, but Ben Edmondson is who I am. I'm not afraid to give anybody my phone number. If you have a question for your superintendent, you should be able to reach your superintendent. Things happen in a day that may not happen after 5 o'clock, or may not happen before 5. Some things happen at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You can call your superintendent and know that you will get a response. So these are things that I do. I'm accessible to my community. And I tell them, when you see something that doesn't look right, I can guarantee you that I don't think it looks right either. So we're in this, it's a community, but what I do tell people is when you don't invest in your community, it collapses. Your school district, you can lose your school district. Okay, you can lose it easily when you don't invest. You must be part of the solution. Okay, part of the problem is leaving in mine, I just be direct with you. When they go to Ann Arbor, I say, well, you should live in Ann Arbor. I don't want you to come and move into Ypsilanti and then go choose out and go into and go into Ann Arbor schools. If you love Ann Arbor so much, live there. I'm sure they have a place for you, but doesn't always come out like that. It's a little smoother when I say it, but.
All right, moving on.
Just saying, just saying.
All right, considering your past accomplishments, Ben, what are some of the reasons for your success?
People, being able to have a good team around me, finding people who can compliment with an E to complete me. Things that I don't do well, I need to have people that are around me, not having yes people who are only going to tell you what they think is best because you're around. My ability to unite a community and engage a community, because I am a very extroverted person, very extroverted. I am a communicator, and I'm not afraid to fail. I'm going to be concise for you.
Share with the board your most difficult administrative situation that you faced, how you handled it, and how you arrived at your decision.
Boy, I've had a recent one, and that's this one. I'll be quite frank, this one. I knew about this opportunity in June. I wanted it in June, and I was hoping that it would not be August, that it would not be the end of August, because school starts, and my community looks to me for a whole lot. They do. But I need to be in a place where I feel that I have the best chance to have growth, personal growth, and where I can make the greatest impact. My decision to be here is because this is home. As I said, this is definitely home. But also, I feel comfortable that if I am given an opportunity to lead Wayne Westland Schools, that I've left Ypsilanti Community Schools in a far better place than it was before I got there. That makes it easy. Also knowing that, yes, I leave kids, but I come somewhere else and I impact kids at the same manner. So that makes it an easier decision for me.
Thanks. If you were selected to lead Wayne Westland School District, you'll be inheriting a strategic plan that you've talked about, that's been both adopted and endorsed by the school board, the staff, and the community. Based on your research of the district and its strategic plan, what challenges do you think you'd face as a new superintendent, and what strengths would you bring to address those challenges?
Well, the first challenge would be that I wasn't there when you were adopting it, okay, when it wasn't adopted. So if I was there when it was being adopted, I could be really cognizant of everything that's in there. So you have to step back and realize that you weren't a part of that. But how do you counter it? You familiarize yourself with it. So I would make certain that I familiarize myself with it and be able to regurgitate it to the community, and that my actions demonstrate that I understand and that I support the strategic plan. It's not my job to come and change the strategic plan that the community has adopted. My job is to follow it. The challenge, that's the challenge. In terms of what strengths do I bring? Boy. Frankly, personality, energy level, the ability to energize the community about our product. Getting out and getting the word out about Wayne Westland Community Schools. Okay? That is important to me. That's what I bring, to bring a wealth of energy. I have high energy, and I love it. But when I go home, I don't have anything left, because I bring it every day. I put it on the table. I live and breathe the school district. That's who I am. That's what I love to do, to get out in the community and present the strategic plan, to bring businesses into the community, to talk about, are you aware of the strategic plan? Because decisions, and this is what I tell people in the community, decisions that I make as a superintendent have a tremendous impact on you, whether or not you have children in our school district. Okay, the decisions that I make, the decision to close a building when you live in that neighborhood has a huge impact on you, whether or not you're in this district. So let us all familiarize ourselves with this strategic plan so there are no surprises. My job is to go out and be a champion for the school district, because all of us are going to have to do a bond issue at some point. Okay, I'm thrilled that we passed the millage renewal. Okay, that was huge for me. That's in there so that you can see the results. Being a new superintendent and having to do that, how did I do it? Having conversation with people, talking about what we do well and how I need your help. Okay, I need your help to make this school district so that we can achieve what we're supposed to achieve.
How would you create a climate that values diversity and inclusion if you were in Wayne Westland? And give some specific examples of how you've done it already.
Your hiring practices. Your hiring practices need to indicate that. I have some things that are written in Spanish for my community. That's pretty important. Taking yourself out and visiting different churches that may not look like your church. That's very important to get out and deliver that message. We were the first in Ypsilanti Community Schools to raise the transgender flag. It was Transgender Day. And one thing that I will promise you is this, and I say this, I leave my religious convictions and my personal convictions at home when I do this job. My job is to support children. Okay, and all children don't value what I value. All children don't believe in what I believe. But my job is to make sure kids love school and they feel included and safe. You have to take chances in your school district to put yourself out there to celebrate diversity. Everybody's not going to welcome it, okay? But it's my responsibility to make certain that our district represents all of the people that are in our district. Okay, not some, all of them. And how do you do it? You just simply ask, where are we not doing it? Okay, what are we doing for Latino kids? What are we doing for Asian students? What are we doing for transgender students? What are we doing? Are our schools safe for our bisexual and homosexual students? How are our black students doing? These are questions that you ask, and then you go out and you promote it. And you ask your community for support.
You mentioned a bond. Please share with the board any experiences you've had in gathering community support for an issue facing the school district.
I'll start with the bond. I'll start with our millage renewal. My responsibility was to explain what a millage renewal was. Okay, it was simply a renewal. So I went out to the community. I went out to the, not nursing homes, they were senior centers. Went out to senior centers to talk about it because seniors are the ones that are absolutely going to vote. I sent a letter out to I don't know if it was 4,000 absentee ballots that went out. I sent out a letter talking about the good things that are going on and why we need this millage renewal. Now, as the superintendent, I'm allowed to say things that other people can't say as the superintendent, which is support, that we need your support. So I was out there getting our message out. I was in churches talking about these things. I made certain that my principals were out. We trained them to make sure that they can go out and be understood about the importance of a millage and a renewal and what happens if it doesn't pass. I invited all of our business community in to sit through it was probably a 30-minute presentation on the renewal and what we stood to lose, okay, in a renewal. Not what you gain, it's what you lose, because the renewal simply keeps the status quo. But you have to explain it to people because they're like, oh no, here's the school district asking us again, okay? But I also say that the school district, the renewal was all about Proposal A, and Proposal A is about that the school district and its community, the community accepts responsibility to keep the school district going, okay? It's not just the state giving you money. The community also has to do its part. So it's just ongoing information, making sure that you get your message out there. And when I say I, it was we, okay? It just wasn't me. It's other people making sure that my principals know what they're talking about, make sure that the business community could be supportive, and knowing which businesses I had for support, okay? Because they can get that message out for you with literature.
So, we've reached the end of the road here, and you've been asked a number of questions this evening on a wide range of topics. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the board that they haven't asked you about?
Sure, I would just like to let you leave on a few things that I think they're just direct. They're just as direct that I'm proud of that we've been able to accomplish in my school district in 2 years. We were a school district that was consolidated. Every year we have to pay $2 million back to the state before anything else, before we even do student count. That's very difficult, but we've maintained our budget. We have not had to dip into the fund balance. I'm very excited about the things that have happened in the last 2 years, but I'm going to just briefly run through successes. We opened a pre-K to PYP program, that's International Baccalaureate. We removed the school from a priority list, hired a very diverse staff, 4.5% raises for teachers since 2006. We have a great relationship with the media, great community relationship, and you can see all of those in MLive and anything else that you Google, you can see those things. We have a great business partnership where all of our seniors have an opportunity to have an internship with a business for 9 weeks. That's new. That has come in the last 2 years. Because we want to make sure that our businesses know what our seniors are doing, and I need the business community to tell me if our seniors are ready. We have increased enrollment since I've been there, as in the last 2 years. We've had financial gains. We've had facility downsizing. I'm really proud that I leased one of our buildings for $180,000 a month for 8 months and brought in $1.4 million on that deal. We have people that are renting our buildings for less than fair market value. That doesn't go on anymore. They're paying fair market value. I have set the tone that nobody is going to come into our district and take advantage of our district. These are our kids. You're not going to take advantage of it, and everybody knows that in the community. It's not going to happen. Guaranteed curricula, we're making certain that if a student leaves one school and goes to another school, that they're learning the same things. We've restructured my central office that has benefited the district in the tune of $100,000. We've had a successful millage renewal, full accreditation for our district. We settled the YCEA and YCEA OP contracts. I've leased buildings, sold buildings, hired a communications coordinator who has done a marvelous job. We have 105.1 The Bounce and DJ De Niro and Reggie Reg Davis coming, and we're having a welcome back to our community. We have school and community partnerships. I've created a coordinator of data and a photographer. We have a photographer that takes pictures of our kids and we put it out because parents want to see pictures of their kids. It works. And the last couple, we have a YCS job fair for students where we bring community members, businesses in to employ our students. We have a welcome back staff and family event that's going on this September 9th. You're all welcome to come from 12 to 3. Again, that's Reggie Reg. We had a successful millage renewal, and we also had a special education countywide millage. All of these things have happened in the last 2 years under my leadership since I've been there. But it's not me, and that's what I need to be clear. That's not me. It's under the leadership and the people with whom I work, and proud to say that I work, and our community. That's all I'd like you to know.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Ben
Thank you,
Edmondson.
Dr. Edmondson.